You never really know if today could be the day that it all changes for the better. And I know that sounds corny, I know it sounds cliche, but you truly never know. I recently listened to the story of J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books, and she talks about hitting her lowest low 7 years after getting out of school. She was as close to the poverty level as you could get without being homeless. She had a daughter to feed, she was severely depressed, thought about killing herself. At the absolute bottom of the barrel. She got divorced after 13 months of marriage, just over a year. She had a miscarriage. It was just ridiculous how deep and dark her life was at the time. But she wrote. She knew that she always wanted to be a writer, so she would write, I think it was in a bar or a cafe, with her daughter there. And guess what happened? She got a publisher after 20 some odd rejections, and after 3 days after the book was published, a company offered her $100,000 for the book rights, which was unprecedented with children's books. If she never wrote that book, despite wanting to kill herself and go out in the back and off herself, she never would have seen that one day where everything changed for the better for her. She's now one of the richest women in the world and is a billionaire, but a billionaire from absolute poverty to that high. You never really know when things are going to change. It could be the one day. It could be like a lot of these stars, these YouTube stars now, maybe today's the video they shoot where they get discovered by The Voice or some big company. You might have heard of Malala. Malala was a Pakistani teenager when she was going to school one day, I believe, and a bunch of Taliban soldiers came on the bus and they asked for her by name. They were deliberately seeking her out, a child, a young teenage girl, and one of the soldiers went right up to her in her face and pulled the trigger 3 times. One bullet went in her forehead, ricocheted down, and into her shoulder or went out in this direction, and miraculously, she survived. Malala is the youngest Nobel Prize laureate, I think, in history at this point. And still a teenager, she's like 19, is one of the biggest voices, not only for the women's movement, but for the peace movement worldwide. So even though this is a depressing, again, a bottom of the barrel story, Malala didn't know what was going to happen to her that day, and she didn't know what was going to happen to her life after that day. You never know if one day is going to be the day where everything changes, in her case, in the short term for the worse, but in the long term for the better. That's what gave her the fire to go on and do the great things that she's had. That's what has allowed her to be fearless and challenge an entire society to engage in this kind of women's rights dialogue. You never know what that one thing or that one day might be. I had a friend of mine a couple years back, maybe 4 or 5 years now. He was at an event and he was having fun. He was in a job he hated, but he was trying to get out of that whole space, and he was having fun, enjoying himself. And he got a call in the middle of the night, and he said it was from his dad, and it said that his mom had died. She just died in her sleep. She had some freak weird accident and she was dead. She was just gone like that. Here the night before, gone by the next morning. There was nothing they could do to predict it or protect her. There was nothing they could do to fix it. She was just here, and then she wasn't. And it was because of that dark night, essentially of the soul, that he decided, okay, I've been doing this shit job for so many years. It's time for me to actually wake up and do what I really want to do. Do what I actually have been waiting my whole damn life to do. And it was because of that one day, even though he was depressed, even though he was just in the worst spot of his life for years, that day put him on a trajectory that he never would have anticipated. He never would have gone down otherwise. And even though a lot of these are such negative examples, right? Like people near the verge of death, right? The lowest low, the worst time in their life, he used that as his opportunity for transition, for change, for improving his life. And even though whatever goal you're going after, I talk about weight loss a lot here and health, whether it's the relationship, your financial life, something else you're going after, how do you know today or tomorrow or Friday may not be the day when it all changes? How do you know that? How do you know some crazy opportunity may not come into your life? How do you know some incredible person, whether it's romantic or a job interest or a massive job opportunity? How do you know that won't come into your life tomorrow? The reality is you don't know. And that's why I want to challenge you, because you don't know if tomorrow or today is going to be the greatest day of your life. But if you show up with that mindset, if you show up with that, I'm gonna give 100% to those daily habits every single day. Doesn't matter what I feel like, doesn't matter how depressed I am, doesn't matter if I feel like going in the back and killing myself. It doesn't matter how bad things are now, because today or tomorrow is gonna be the day. You don't know that. So it just as could be today, tomorrow, the next day, the next week. How do you know that is not your day to shine? That is not your day to make things happen. That is not your day where you're gonna reach your goal or find some shortcut or meet some person that changes everything for the better. How do you know that today is not your day?